S.M.A.R.T Love is sound. It means that it is healthy and it is conditioned for the deposits and withdrawals of love. This type of love does not need to perform for the sake of validation. In fact, it exists as its own entity, giving itself without the need to receive for it to be genuine.
Love is a high-risk behavior.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast, High Risk for Heartbreak. I am your host, Christina, and I am so glad you decided to join me again today. Whew. Wow. Season 2. I can't believe it's here. It is among us. We are on the second episode, and I was having a really tough time with this one, and I know why. So last season, I spent a hefty amount of time just laying foundational work, talking about relationships, the psychology around relationships, around heartbreak. I think I talked a bit about biology of the heart. We talked about the different styles of relationships, the spiritual implications of relationships, and there was just so much foundational ground laying. One of the things that I did not do on the last season was really discuss in depth the pain that comes from romantic relational heartbreak. And it's so interesting as I reflect back. I believe that was me avoiding it because that is actually the heartbreak that I have most recently sustained. And there was a unreadiness of me that I had. I wasn't ready to really delve into it in a way that may be helpful, I think, to some of you. And I think partly it is because I wanted to make sure that I got through to the other side of certain parts of this. And I'm not really saying anything at all right now. But basically what I mean is that I wanted to make sure that I wasn't still hurting to a certain degree that wouldn't allow me to be able to see the forest from the trees. And I wanted to make sure that I had gotten to a place that I could speak very authentically and logically, not just emotionally to what just happened. So having said that, let's get into it. My ex got the best of me. This idea of someone getting the best of you, I think typically what we think is this person had me acting out of order, out of character, had me come out of my Christian values, dimmed my self-worth, stole from me. Maybe that's what you're thinking about when you're thinking about someone getting the best of you. The late and great Maya Angelou once said, "Do the best that you can until you know better. And when you know better, do better." As my pastor, Dr. Darius Daniels, would say, you did the best that you could with the tools you had in the season that you were in. And I love each of these quotes because they play on each other. And the fact of them is this, that all you have is your present self. In a dreamy world, that self would be presently the most evolved, most refined, highest earning, kindest, most loving, unstressed, omnipresent, fittest and healthiest mind, body, and soul, just to name a few things. But how realistic is it to cover all of this ground in one season of your life and genuinely not feel stretched, stressed, depressed? How realistic is it that you appear in each of your relationships like that? With friends, with family, mentors, romantic partners, marital partners, business partners of business partners that you're doing business with, and then all the other types of relationships that we juggle on a daily basis. How realistic is it to always be at your best? Do your best until you know better. Hopefully it will relieve the stress that you've been placing on yourself to perform within your relationships for love. Some of us have been there in the past, myself included, performing for a person's love and affection and attention, and we're constantly in this mode of investing. But it's emptying when we do that, right? Particularly when our deposits into their account are greater than their deposits into ours. Knowing how to do better requires that at a certain point, you knew less than you do now. So when I think of my past and any relationship I held, I can say now that I do much better today. I do. I know how to be much better today. I know much more than I knew then today about being in relationships. So I can't feign ignorance, of course, as a reason for devolving relationally. If I'm devolving relationally, it's a choice. A great majority of us want extensive growth and maturity in our ability to relate to others. We, I believe, genuinely want everything in the present to be better than it was in the past. So today I want to explore the thoughts that we have around regretting our exes getting the best of what we had to give. Let's relate. Am I correct in saying that you are presently at your best, even with less? You are less your last relationship and all that came along with that, like movie nights, cooking together, helping each other reach your goals, lazy Saturdays and adventures out in the city. You are less getting hugs, kisses. In fact, there's no type of intimacy or intimate moments. And in fact, no one's even looking at you. You're alone. You're single. That's how somehow become like a really buzzy word these days. That's me. Anyway, you are missing out on a really vital part of your expression of what it means to be a human being. On the flip side, of course, we're less all of those beautiful things. But then we're also less the daily stress of considering our mate, their whereabouts, their safety, and depending on the ecosystem of that relationship, maybe we're less arguments and uncomfortable disagreements and working through triggers and childhood trauma. We're less the impasses that happen when we're not agreeing and seeing things eye to eye. And we want to be on different sides of the room because that's how close we could stand to be next to each other. There are many experiences, of course, to name. And these very opposing sides of romantic relationships that a lot of us have experienced are very blatant. We're missing all of those things when we enter into our stage of singleness. After the dust of separation has settled and you start to see things clearly, you'll start to see things differently than you did when you were in the relationship. The saying hindsight is 20/20 has become so relatable to me in this season, and maybe it is to you as well. And I can attest to nothing becoming more clearer and more precise than after my relationship ended. The scales will fall off your eyes, and suddenly you're flipping through every scenario that you encountered with your ex, and you find yourself rewriting details that you can't believe that you played a part in. You will rewrite your faults, amplify theirs. You rewrite your pain moments, reconciling them as pleasure. And then suddenly, of course you knew all of this. Of course. You knew all of this was possible, both good and bad, like some sort of deja vu. An article from verywellmind.com speaks about hindsight bias, which is a tendency for people to view events as more predictable than they really are. In experiments, people often recall predictions before the event happened. They will recall a prediction, which is so interesting. It's like recalling a memory that they were predicting before the action happened. And they will say that they knew the thing would happen, right? They recall this memory and this event to be much stronger than it actually was. This is also a phenomenon called I knew it all along. Have you guys ever been there where you're like, I knew you were doing me wrong. Or I knew you were lying to me. I knew you were stealing. Did you? Now, I myself have been here where it seems like I could have definitely predicted this ending. But if so, if that's the case, why didn't I act differently? Maybe fixing the issue or saving myself from the heartbreak. And I can't say exactly, of course, in all cases of my heartbreak that I didn't know and that all cases of your heartbreak that you didn't know, because maybe you did know some of them were coming. But that hindsight bias will get you. And what I think really what that hindsight bias is a bargaining tool that we're using in our time of grief, right? Bargaining is one of those stages that we go through, although there's so many more, where we're trying to reconcile the past with the present. And we're really trying to just see if there's a way that the present can change. Can we go back? Can we try again? Can we do this again? And so that hindsight bias of like, I knew it all along, I predicted this is a lack of acceptance. It's our way to kind of soften the blow of the reality of the heartbreak. Hindsight truly being 20/20 is when you have reached the stage of acceptance and those blind spots, those scales have fallen away and you know that you can't change the past. I saw a Twitter post where OP was lamenting about how being cheated on by your romantic partner changes you. It changes your behaviors and your ability to relax and have faith in people. And as I scrolled through the thread of hundreds, maybe thousands of comments from lovers relating to one another, sharing her sentiment, I thought two things. Firstly, sharing your experiences is really important because it fosters community and it connects and binds us in ways that can be very progressive towards our healing. And that's what we're doing here on this podcast. The second thing that I thought was, wow, I completely understand her. I remember all that was invested over the years and the years and the years with my ex, especially with long-term relationships. And some of you can relate. It can be really hard to stomach all of these memories that you've created on purpose and even the ones that you didn't create on purpose. You intertwine your lives, your friends, the places that you eat and travel together, all of this imprinting on you, your heart and your mind. And time is a doozy, man. Time is a doozy. You spend so much of it investing to build something up for it to be broken down. And so in this case, the breakup that OP was talking about wasn't an undoing that she opted for. She was cheated on. And being cheated on, of course, as we know, and this is my personal opinion, maybe it's different for you, but being cheated on is definitely one of the worst ends to a relationship if you decide to end the relationship. The betrayal of it actually really changes your ability to relate to all people. It changes your ability to relate to all people because you start to lack trust and faith that they are being honest with you. When you're blindsided, you really didn't see it coming. My gosh, this betrayal will really change how you relate to others. While this episode is not about cheating, I think this applies to nearly most heartbreak scenarios. I would imagine a good bit of us would opt not to break up if we could really figure out how to make it work. Especially in today's dating climate, I think we want love to prevail now more than ever because it is so much of the opposite that we are seeing and experiencing. What do they say? The level is in hell. I don't know what they say. The dating, something is in hell. And even saying that, me being able to say that I am a part of this, it makes me feel a way to know that I am now navigating these tough waters that people want to believe aren't true, but are true. I'm hurt to say we, because when you desire to love someone and for it to be reciprocal and that to not be a present possibility can be really demoralizing, especially when you've tasted and seen. You lose hope after heartbreak. Hope that someone is capable to do unto you as you would do to them. Because people are anguished by romantic relational heartbreak these days, and we are really in our feelings. I think that we need to become smarter at love. My encouragement to this poster on Twitter, which I did comment back to her, and really to anyone else who needed to hear it, was, yes, your trust in others as you know it has changed forever, for the rest of your days. What you know generally can't become unknown. And yes, it will absolutely change the way that you do relationships. And you know what? Maybe that's perfect. Maybe that's the perfect scenario. Because if you take the time to heal properly, it won't be so bad because you will approach love in a more present and smarter way. So let's talk about smart love. Smart love, to me, is the opposite of whatever we were doing before. When we were falling in love, smart love instead has authority. It has jurisdiction. What does that look like when you are going through this voir dire process in dating and you want to love smartly? What does that look like? So I'm going to use an acronym to kind of break down what I believe smart love looks like. The S for smart love is slow. It takes its time to get to a place of comfortable trust and potential of that potential partner. It is not hasty to get to the good parts. I know the good parts feel good, y'all. I know the good parts feel good, but it's not hasty to get to the good parts. They will come if this is founded on something real. It allows the beginning stages to be a simmer versus a rolling boil versus a whirlwind or a rapture of emotion. It balances the scales of emotion and logic, knowing that both are equally important for intimate connection and the vision of the future that you might have together with that person. You're not going to rush to either of those objectives. It's slow. Additionally, smart love is sound. So I'm giving 2 S's and 2 M's just so you know, because I couldn't only do one. Smart love is sound. It means that it is healthy and it is conditioned for the deposits and withdrawals of love. This type of love does not need to perform for the sake of validation. And in fact, it exists as its own entity, giving itself without the need to receive for it to be genuine. How often can you say that you give to people without the need to receive a thank you? And your love is genuine without the need to be validated by their love. It's slow, it's sound. Smart love is mindful. It exists more than not in the realm of consciousness when it comes to making decisions about it. It considers the other person and is alert to their needs as it needs them, as it learns them, right? It's alert to their needs as you are learning the other person. It's not self-seeking first. It's not self-seeking first. You can be self-loving first, considering yourself first and the things that you value, but it's not self-seeking first. You're not only out here to gain. What can you give me? I'm already met with resistance. That's not mindfulness. It's not demure. It's not self-seeking first. And I think counter to what our impulses want us to be, maybe you're not gonna like this one. It's also meek. I understand why you wouldn't like this one. And sometimes I don't like it either. The application of love, of this type of love, a meek love, suffers long. It humbles itself in discord, and it sets its sights towards resolution. It can endure things like hiccups of misinterpretation. It can endure hiccups in action because people are people, and we don't always make the choices that they don't always make the choices we want them to make, right? They make their own choices. It's humble, knowing that the result of the relationship is also part of their responsibility. It's mindful. It's meek. Smart love is also abstract. It's sure to outline what it wants to be and what it doesn't want to be. But this is the part of love that has historical context to work from, especially if you have been heartbroken. That's who this is for. You have historical context to work from. This is not your first time at this, right? So you know what you want and don't want, but you're not married to it. That's why it's abstract. You know what it's like to love and to give with no bounds, to fall with no parachute, and to live with no plan. So you're more theoretical. Theory. You're experimenting, you're trying. You have a vision, but you're not married to the vision. You're not stuck on the things going one way and one way only. You're abstract. Smart love reasons. Similarly to being sound, this type of love reasons. It's able to make rational judgments of what is in the best interest of self and the other. One thing about rational judgment is that it cannot be selfish or sabotaging. It relies on straightness and accepts that the truth is the truth versus bending the truth to meet our need. It meets the truth instead where it's at. It is reasonable. Smart love, lastly, takes care. This love assumes responsibility for its expression. It assumes responsibility for its growth and the maintenance needed. It's involved in its own progress, and it's a contribution to the relationship and knows that contribution matters. It also knows if it doesn't take care, that pulls value out of the relationship. It's responsible, right? It's reasonable. It's smart. It takes care. Smart love is not about the other person as much as it is about knowing our own personal values and our standards and desires. And knowing these things, then we can better get to know someone else from an understanding of them as a separate person, an entity that also has their own standards and values and desires, right? And they don't have to be a threat to ours. They're separate from us. It helps me to be able to detach from, I need instant intimacy and connection, and just see and meet the person. It's like going to an interview. Well, maybe not, because you're performing at an interview as well. So we won't use that example, but meeting somebody organically for the first time at an event, right? There's no expectation from that person. But we go into these dating scenarios as singles because we're hurt with expectations to never be hurt again, as if it's never going to hurt again. And we're like, tell me who you are. Tell me who you aren't. What can you do for me? I don't want this. That I'm sorry, is not smart love. You cannot expect a deep, intimate connection with someone when you're pushing them away immediately. Let's be for real. You move with wisdom because you have historical context, right? We move slowly. We're kind, we're gentle. We're open to hearing about them. We're open to considering what they say. Honestly, wisdom is going to truly be what's best for you. The wise you is the best you. The Bible talks about a certain love from Jesus called agape love. Now, we talked about this love last season in one of the first few episodes. I went through a whole series of different styles of love. And agape love, which is the highest form of love, encompasses all. And it has no condition. Can you believe that? It's unconditional. This love, it is sacrificial and does not need reciprocity for it to exist. Now, it sounds a lot like parental love to child love, but I don't think that's actually always the case. This love envelops the flaws of the human condition despite where humans are. It is absolutely for others. This love, agape love, is for others. However, smart love has conditions. While it does consider the human condition, especially the condition of the once brokenhearted, because we know we're not meeting people who are perfect beings. We're meeting other broken beings. And maybe they're not presently broken, but they have been. Maybe they're not fully healed. They may have some scars that are sensitive, right? We know we're meeting those types of people. So it considers that. It considers the human condition and understands that we might be meeting somebody that is healing through something as well. But smart love is for you. Agape love is for them. Smart love is for you. So agape and smart love don't have to exist separately, right? One is a biblical truth and the other really is just based on my personal experience, and it may help you. This may help you ascertain the beautiful example of what I believe Jesus modeled for us. And perhaps it's better to think about this type of love as an approach to love versus a type of love, should I say, right? Smart love is an approach to love. Smart love, though, can only come after heartbreak. Being high risk for heartbreak means that you put yourself in the best case scenario, maximum vulnerability to receive the highest expression of love from your partner and the inverse. You are qualified to make smart love decisions. You are qualified to exercise your discernment because you've had a heartbreak. And your heartbreak is your prerequisite. Smart love is a risk, you guys. Yes, it is. But it's also a reward. While this particular episode was not for the high school sweethearts who have never experienced or encountered the trauma of a romantic heartbreak, I do want all of us to take note that remembering not all love is love. Not all love is love. Not all the things that we thought was love is actually love. And that love that we knew with our ex was absolutely the best that we could offer in the season that we were in with the tools that we had. But a smarter lover is an intentional lover. And an intentional lover is the best lover. So now we do better because we know better. Stay smart out there. I love you. Thank you for loving yourself so you can then go and love your neighbor. Until next time.
Why don't you stay a little longer? You like what you like, right? Subscribe to the channel so we can spend a little more time together. And maybe comment your thoughts because I care what you're thinking. Love is the risk and the reward.